Welcome to another edition of webinar series on MBA Roundtable, which we conduct with academic leaders and industry veterans. And today we have with us Dr. Chandrika Parmar. Dr. Parmar is an associate professor at SPJMR, Mumbai. She has a DPhil in management studies from Said Business School, University of Oxford. And today we'll be discussing with her on the PRME India Chapter Meet 2022, a one-day event to be held on December 12th at SP Jain Institute of Management and Research, Mumbai. Dr. Parmar is the current chair of the PRME India chapter. The meet seeks to address the issue of the challenge of if and how management education can create ecosystems for creating a socially aware community of participants. Welcome to the session, Dr. Parmar.
Thank you.
So my first question to you is, within the perspective of PRME chapter meet, please share your views on responsible management education. Your thoughts, please, madam.
So, Anshul, the idea of PRIME itself, the topic of the chapter, which is partnering for social impact towards responsible management education, it's embedded in the idea of PRIME itself. PRIME basically means it's a United Nations initiative which talks of principles for responsible management education. It's anchored in the belief that managers to be leaders tomorrow must be anchored in an education system which teaches them to be responsible managers as when they go and become part of the corporates. So that's a larger part. And as they embark on this journey, we are hoping that they will also acquire sensibilities as part of the education system, which and as they move through their lives, they will also impact society and different aspects of society. So the theme of the PRIME India Chapter Meet, which is in 2022, is partnering for social impact. Social impact has become a word which is, like as bad as in some senses, it's become like greenwashing or residue washing. So, but if you really want to talk of social impact, you've got to talk of the larger ecosystem. And I think the kind of issues that society deals with or engages with, I think there's a wide variety of issues and problems. And if you really want to make any difference, you need to partner with each other. I think these issues are bigger than any one of us, any particular individual, any particular institution, actually even bigger than any country. These are larger planetary issues, they're larger societal issues, they're larger issues of ecological justice. So you need to partner and build those larger collaborators. I think hence the idea of partnering for social impact.
Wonderful, wonderful. But please also help us understand that why B schools must offer a social impact education. How management education can partner for social impact. Please help us understand on this thought.
I think, and let me take an example of some of the issues that we've encountered. We've just come out of a pandemic. I think we've just faced a global crisis, which was a pandemic. We are in the middle of the conversations around climate change, and we're having next year we'll see us talking about COP28 and climate change and other issues. I think there's a somber realization that it cannot be a business as usual, and the call for purpose has, in fact, in some senses, gone mainstream. You're saying, let us re-examine some of the languages that we use in an everyday sense in many of the business schools. A language of effectiveness, efficiency, productiveness. I think that language cannot come at the cost of ecological degradation. It cannot come at the cost of inequities. So if you really want a sustainable future, if you want a future where for the next generation, which is more equitable, which is also more, should we say, ecologically robust, a planet which is healthy, you need to have a generation, you need to educate a generation which will be sensitive to these concerns. And I think many of these issues that I've raised and talked about are not issues that can be solved by any one person. These are wicked problems, which are intractable problems, which our society and our planet confronts. So you need a larger collaborative which deals and engages with looking at these issues and creating communities which are socially responsible.
Nice. And but when I look, so historically in India, students always choose a business school for better career opportunities. And candidly, it turns out that the first major motivation for any aspirant is placements. So, in this context, what are your thoughts? What are your views? How and when MBA can be detached from placements, since we are speaking about social impact?
So I think that's a very good and a very relevant question for all business schools. And I don't think you need to detach it. You cannot detach it. I mean, we're living in a system where students, and you're absolutely right. I mean, you do want a job at the end of an MBA program. And MBA, the entrance to an MBA program itself is very extremely competitive. You create an ecosystem which is extremely competitive. And then you're saying, Chandrika, you're speaking about collaboration, after all that competition that we induce right from the entry to during, the coursework, to the interbusiness competitions. And then you're suddenly saying you must collaborate and you must build an ecosystem or a conversation where people can collaborate to become better citizens of the future. I think having said that, I would say that it makes business sense. If I look not just in a monetary sense, I think, and if you really want a future, which I mean a future in a literal sense, if you want a future in a literal sense, you need to create that sensibility. I think the question that you ask is how can we de-link the placements from an MBA scheme? I don't think that you can. I think what you can do is create a responsible corporate or create a community which lends itself to a responsible corporate. And that becomes the larger ecosystem of which the students are part of or the participants are part of. I think more and more there is a realization among the corporates that it cannot be business as usual. I think we've seen it in several instances now where the language of ESG is something that has become a default setting. To have a community which is sensitive to that is part of it. I don't know whether I've answered your question, but I think that is part of the things. That are the kind of energies that we would wish to harness to become solution to a problem, where business also starts looking at the purpose of a business, which is about solutioning for certain things rather than just making profits.
Right, right. Let me take a larger look at the larger canvas, madam. Now, so how do you look at the future of MBA? Would future of MBA be for more experienced executives versus the freshers getting into the B schools? How do you look at this picture?
I think if you look at worldwide, it's going to be, I think the current model it's not as if the current model will change. I think the future of work itself is going to undergo a change. I think COVID has taught us that the future of work might take different forms, from the hybrid form to people who will want flexible work conditions in multiple ways. We're seeing mass resignations where people are asking for different parameters of how they look at employment. So if you have that as a background, I think one of the things that many of us will probably see going forward is, I think there'll be a coexistence of all. There might be even, I think we've suddenly learned during the COVID that there is something called the online mode. If you look at some of the top B schools worldwide, they're also going, suddenly making their digital presence felt. And they're collaborating for that digital presence. They're also talking, that also leads to a certain kind of democratization of the MBA, which was otherwise an elite school. The executive MBA, as you say, I think the executive MBA will never go out of work, because I think it's about people experiencing, and it's about lifelong continuous learning process. So my sense is that all will coexist. But the nature of the work and how you work in these organizations might change.
Beautiful, beautiful. And that brings me to my last question, madam, which is more inclined towards the academia and the industry relationship. How do you think the academia industry relationship can be tailored towards the curriculum and the pedagogy design at the B schools? What are your thoughts in this respect, madam?
So I think the academia is often accused of being sitting in the ivory towers, and saying that you really don't know what's happening in industry, and the industry is way ahead of what the academia constantly plays a catch-up role. I think that is something that we academics are often accused of. I think there's a value for the classical theoretical aspects of a theory, and there's also space for what industry does, which is the actual practice of it. The two coexist. When we're talking of pedagogy, I think that it may be at multiple levels, especially when I speak in the context of RME, or responsible management education. Within business schools, we really do want to have a pedagogy which embeds values into your curriculum. The second part of that pedagogy needs to also look at issues of sustainability. And when I talk of issues of sustainability, I'm not just talking environmental sustainability. I'm also talking of equitable issues of equity and justice, and pedagogies that expose you to, and it could be case studies, it can be experiential learning, it can be field work, it can be multiple, and which again need to, should we say, reflect itself and go into the industry, so to say. And the third aspect is, of course, pedagogy, which makes the curriculum itself exciting, so which could be simulation games and other things. So pedagogical innovations can happen at multiple places. Part of it can be with an understanding of what the industry needs. For example, you could have simulations, or there could be more industry immersions, or there could be experiential learning. I think the pedagogy in that sense becomes a critical component of the bridge that you want to build between the industry and the academia. And I think it would be a constant experimentation that you need in that space.
Sure. Thank you so much, Dr. Parmar, for taking out time and speaking to us today. It has been a wonderful session, and we wish you best of luck for the event coming on Monday. PRME India wishes you best of luck for the event. Thank you so much again for taking out time.
Thank you, Anshu, for taking the time to have this conversation.